Thanks for stopping by if you are live, in fact, or if you're watching this as a recorded video. I want to say I'm Gary Dawson, and this is a Benchworks live stream tech version. Today we're going to be taking a look at Rhino. I know that last week I mentioned I was going to do reticulation. It turns out that I didn't have all the cables I needed to connect my macro cameras up for excellent video that I want to continue to have on this stream. And so that's not happening. If you're here for reticulation or if you're watching the video for reticulation, I apologize about that. But this is going to be a fun video anyway. Benchworks session 2 live stream. And it's funny, I feel a little bit like a kid walking into the first day of kindergarten. I don't know why. I've done a ton of public speaking and it's not that big a deal, but I guess I haven't done a lot of live streaming. So here we go. We're going to learn this together. I'm doing this live versus edited. I'm going to sacrifice, the slick appearance that you can get with edited content. And I'm doing this in hopes of encouraging live participation at some point. If that doesn't work out, then maybe I'll move to a slicker edited format. But for right now, we're going to do this live. If you're watching on YouTube, I have my chat box open here. So if you have questions, please feel free to chat them into me. And I'll address them as I can get to them. It's like I said, I'm sacrificing a little slick thing here for the ability for people to participate. So I hope that you do. Also, this content I'm hoping to keep free for the audience, completely free. Engagement is going to make the difference for that. I hope to attract at some point sponsors, but also everybody knows that you can monetize YouTube. So if I get enough subscribers, that might happen. So if you end up liking this content, please hit the like button and subscribe to be informed at least and to be able to participate in future episodes. So here we go. Let's take me off the screen. Thank goodness, huh? And we'll go to the display capture here of Rhino. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make a sort of a signet style ring out of a torus. That's one of Rhino's solid objects here, a torus. And in the front viewport, we'll start at the 0, the origin, we call it in Rhino. And let's see, we know that size 10 ring is about 20 millimeters in diameter, roughly. So this isn't going to end up a size 10, but we're going to make our first click out here at 20 millimeters. And then we're going to bring this in to, let's zoom in here. And we want this to end up being, a shank of about 1.5 millimeters. 2 millimeters wouldn't be bad. Let's go full 2 millimeters. And so now we have our torus. Let's see what this looks like in perspective view. Before we continue, we're going to actually do one thing here. We're going to select this object, and on the surface, we're going to surface edit tools, and we're going to adjust the closed surface stream. So right now, it's a top dead center of the outside of this torus. We want to move it to the inside, just like that. Simple enough. And now, it didn't look like the seam actually moved. Let's try this again. Surface edge tools, adjust closed surface stream on here. Yeah, for some reason we didn't. Here we go. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. And that should have done it, but it didn't. And see, here's the problem. It worked fine when I was practicing. Oh my gosh. We're going to do this one more time. Surface edit tools. I promise this works. Adjust closed surface seam on this surface. And we're going to take it from here to this midpoint. And I'm still not sure we accomplished our goal. So now, if you could see my face, you could see that it's really red. I'm going to keep plowing at this until I can get it to work. Let's take off center, mid, quad, and end. Let's unclick end and try this one more time. It's funny, when I was practicing yesterday afternoon, it worked just fine. Surface edit tools, adjust closed surface seam on this surface. And we want it to be right there. And it still didn't work. Well, it's not imperative. It would have made this go a little bit more smoothly, and I'm going to have to come back now and do a short video on why this didn't work for you. But let's go ahead and proceed. I will show you where it would have made a difference as we get a little bit further into this. I apologize for that little glitch. But see, that's the fun thing about doing a live. You see what happens when you're using Rhino. You run into these little things as they happen. Let's highlight this and turn on control points, F10. And one of the things that we want to do here is just make the top wider. All right. Now, here's the deal. I'm going to turn control points back off, F11, really quickly. And that's okay. That accomplished what I wanted, more or less. But I don't like this transition. I would like for that to be a much smoother transition. So I'm going to Control Z out of what I just did. I'm going to select this and rebuild. And when this pops up, you'll see I don't necessarily want more point count in either U or V, but I definitely want to change it from degree of 2 to 3, and you'll see what difference that makes. Let's click OK here. And you can see that our control points have changed a little bit in character in terms of how they follow the torus all the way around. Let's select that same group and do the same kind of scale that we did before and watch this transition point here. Okay, see how this is a much smoother transition into the top of the ring? I like that a lot better. Let's leave these control points on for the time being, and let's just select, if we can, this group of control points. Holding down Shift, we'll select that group of control points, and Shift select that group of control points also. And now we're going to make the top of the ring just a little bit thicker by simply moving those up. And again, since it's degree 3, we have a nice smooth transition all the way around. It didn't affect this transition right here much, but it gave us a thicker area to work with on top. It's getting fun now. Okay, let's turn off control points. That's an F11. Pop into the front viewport. And let's make an ellipse. Have grid snap on, so this will make this easy. We're going to just eyeball this ellipse. I'm going to shift constrain it out to the right about as far as I think will be appropriate for this, for what I want to accomplish, which you're going to see in just a minute. And then make it about that wide. And then I can move this down so that it is basically centered on the origin as well as the ring. Let's look at what we have here. Okay, that's in perspective view. We're going to, select, use the directional arrow just to move this up. And again, from the top viewport, we're going to type in the command project. Okay, select surfaces. See, this is still just a single surface. So there's no way to isolate this projection onto the top of the ring, which is the only place where we really need it. But that's going to be okay. Press enter. All right, and now if we look at this again here, you can see that this one at the top is really the only one that we needed. Let's deselect that one and then just put delete on the other highlighted ones. Okay, if we were going to do good layer management here, I would put this on a layer so that I could come back to it. But in this case, for the demonstration, I'm just going to delete it. All right, I'm going to try this just one more time here. Let's select the surface while we still have it. Surface, surface edit tools, adjust closed surface seam. Okay, now I just don't understand why that's not working, but let's see if that worked that time. Oh, bingo. Okay, we got it. It's not perfectly centered, but in this case, it really won't matter. And this will, I'll show in the next step why this is going to be a little bit make my life a little bit easier as we progress through modeling this ring. Okay, now we're going to use a command that's new in Rhino 8 called push-pull. We'll just type it in, push-pull. Rhino autofill puts it, fills it out in the command line. We push enter. We select the surface that is isolated by the curve on the surface that we created with our projection. And notice how we can pull that out if we want to. In this case, I'm going to switch to the front view, and we're going to pull that surface in just a little bit. There's several ways to do this, of course, but this is a way that is relatively new in Rhino 8 using push-pull. Very simple way to create an inlay channel or something. I'm going to Control Z out of that. I really don't want it quite that deep. So let's re-invoke the command, do it here, and let's just make it about that deep. Okay. So that, yeah, that looks a little bit better. Even in a weird demonstration, I like to make things at least somewhat aesthetic. Now, the final thing that we're going to do here is talk about managing textures. Now, you know that if we go into the materials, we can assign a material to this. Let's make it be a metal, right? And let's make that a rich yellow gold, which Rhino has right there already. And then we right click on this to assign it to that object. So the whole thing is in fact, if we render it now, we can see that it should render as a pretty nice gold. Oh, we don't really need this curve anymore. So again, good layer management would leave me putting that on a layer somewhere. But in this case, don't necessarily need it again because this is going to be a short demonstration. So we'll do that. We have this material applied. We can, in shaded view, let's create another material for this. It will also be a metal. It will also be a rich gold color. Okay. But let's make it a little less polished, right? And let's just look at what that looks like here real quick. Rendered. Oops. We're going to Control Shift select just that lower surface and apply it to that surface. So we can get some differential there, right? We can also apply to this material let's use leather here, a bump texture, right? And let's make this extra small is kind of how it usually resolves best in jewelry sized items. So you can see that we have a differential texture here, but now here's the thing. These textures are, the bump textures that you can get in materials application are only for rendering purposes. We go back to shaded and it's not there. It does not exist. So if you export this as an STL, even if it's in rendered mode, that surface texture is not going to go along with the STL file. So that's not exactly how we want to do this. We'd like to be able to print that textured surface right on there. So how do we do it? Let's Control Shift select that surface. Oh yeah, and the reason for moving the seam, by the way, was if the seam were on the top of the ring still, this would have ended up being two separate surfaces. Now, that wouldn't have completely messed up our operation here, but having it be a single surface by moving that seam it just makes it a little simpler for us to think about and work with. Okay, while we have this object selected, let's go to Object Properties and Height Field. I'm orbiting over here. in the upper right-hand part of my screen. We're going to go to, or excuse me, displacement. It's that little globe with bumps on it called displacement. Okay, let's assign a texture here. We don't have any to assign yet necessarily. So let's make a texture and let's make it be, well, let's do it this way. Let's make it be I think there's a leather texture here somewhere. Maybe not. Okay, let's just do a granite texture. All right. And we will turn it on. And we don't see much here. Let's change the displacement values for black point and white point. So let's change black point to negative zero point 0.1, white point to 0.1, right? But see, you can just see the beginnings of this texture sort of here and some tessellation that's going on. But we could actually, if we were able to change it from medium to high or very high, which comes up in the pull down here, then we could actually begin to see. This would be sort of on a jewelry scale, so we could actually see what this texture looks like and get it to print. Now, this I wouldn't call it a glitch in Rhino, but in order to make this work, there's something else that you have to do. You have to select the whole object and you have to create, it works best if you create a different texture. Let's use this one, a grid texture. All right. And we will turn it off, right? But here, while we're here, let's actually turn it on and you can see what happens here, just so you can see how this works. This is medium quality. And you can see that's not a very attractive piece of jewelry so far. But we click on this, we do our black point, negative zero point 0.1, and our white point, 0.1. That's going to help things out a little bit. But now watch what happens when we go to, say, a very high displacement. And see, that's still not exactly what we want with this. So we're going to change a couple of more things here. Let's click on the little pencil and we will repeat this a bunch more times to get the displacement. See, the displacement's got to keep up with it. Here we go. And the offset we can play with. Down here, there's a grain and gamma and multiplier. We can make this be more of them on the surface or less of them on the surface. See how you can make these changes, multiplier, color adjustment. Um, but this is almost irrelevant because what we're going to do now is turn this texture off, and then we're going to go back to this and turn on the granite texture for just that specific surface, and then turn that on. And now we can play with this a little bit. Size, let's move the size down quite a bit. There we go. Now we're starting to get exactly what we want out of this. Okay, repeat it. There we go. You can see the displacement. It takes Rhino just a little bit to figure out or to program the displacement into it. But that's pretty darn close to what we wanted. Now we have, and this is at very high resolution. Now, um, if we zoom in on this, This is a printable surface now. You can also use a bitmap texture if you have a picture that you'd like to have reproduced here. Let me see if I can find really quick. Uh, Stand by 1 second. And I'll show you something if I can. Let's, oops. Let's get, oh, here's what I want to do. Sorry. Coming up should be another version of Rhino. Let's open. Let's go to my inventory and I'm going to search for cactus. Oops, come on. There we go. Cactus, turquoise. No, let's see. Let's. Uh, okay, we're going to bring this one up. You can look at it pretty closely. Okay, here we go. Uh, and if we render this, you can see, okay, this texture actually came from a picture of a saguaro cactus. So that's how you can use a picture to create a texture. And I could go into a little more depth about that, I suppose, but we're getting about near the end of the time I'd planned for today. So let's bring back our signet ring. And just to test the theory here, just so you can see that I'm not joshing you about stuff, let's pick this and we'll alt copy it over here. And you can see how this texture actually came with it. And just to test one more time, if you'd like to, file, export, selected as an STL file here. Texture now, we'll call it. Okay. Okay. And now let's just import that file. Import texture now. Okay. And we'll move this STL mesh over here. And we're probably going to have to render it to see what it looks like. But see, the texture did export with the STL file. All right, so remember, here's the trick that you need to know is if you want to do a differential texture on a piece of jewelry, you first have to apply a texture to the whole object in order to be able to use the different resolution settings that are built into Rhino in the object properties. Oops, that one was a copy, so let's go to this one. And we can go to object properties, texture off on the whole thing, and then on granite texture here. And then we can get to these higher settings of initial quality and max faces and all this other stuff remains viable. Okay, well, that's it. Let's bring back me for a second here. And let me just say, if you've enjoyed this content, please hit the like button. It's going to help a lot. It's going to be able to help me keep this content free for people. And, then you'll be notified for future episodes of this. And, if it seems a little unprofessional, I'm sorry about that. It is, I have a fairly rambling teaching style. But I would rather sacrifice the slickness and edited quality to be able to have people participate live in this eventually when we have enough people that are really interested in this feed. Okay, thanks again. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Actually, next week, I'm going to have Joel McFadden, my friend, on here, and we're going to talk about moving from your living room to a retail store. you know, or from a sidewalk, from going to a very small time operation, probably inside your house somewhere, to a retail store. We're going to talk about that transition, and that will be Benchworks Business. Okay, thanks again.